Hoppers is a 2026 American sci-fi comedy film, the newest from Pixar Studios, directed by Daniel Chong and features voices from Piper Curda, Bobby Moynihan, John Hamm, Dave Franco, and of course, many, many more. It's Pixar after all, right? The plot follows a lifelong animal rights activist who gets a unique opportunity to save animals and their local habitat via brand new cutting-edge technology. Animated movies never really get, views on my channel, so I don't review them all, but I will review the ones that I have like a personal connection to. Like, growing up in the 90s like I did, I'm definitely a Pixar fan. It's just like in my DNA at this point. And I've always been a fan of animated stuff, watching 80s and 90s cartoons growing up and still. And I remember back when Pixar Studios first kind of came out on the scene and gave us instant classics, like Toy Story, that my personal favorite. I just couldn't not be a fan growing up, during those formative years. I gotta say though, some of the more recent stuff, and I know I'm not alone on this, has been really hit and miss for me. And I'd love to see Pixar return to quality over quantity like they used to do. And to be honest, I haven't seen all of it. I haven't seen all their stuff, but I did enjoy, some of their recent stuff like Turning Red and Soul. I even reviewed both here on this channel. Last year I did see Elio, and though I thought it had tons of potential to be great, it just wasn't. Not to me. I mean, that one really let me down. It hardly any memorable characters, and the animation just really started to look stale to me. I know a lot of people that had already been saying it, but Elio for me just really did it. Elio as a character though did speak to me. Like, I saw a little bit of myself in him for sure. And I saw a little bit of myself in Mabel too. Voiced by Piper Curda. I mean, I would get in fights with other kids, that were mean to animals, and as an adult, I've been involved in animal advocacy too. That's a hard word to say. So the first act pretty much focuses on Mabel as a little kid, and it's just a great first act, honestly. I loved the first act to this movie. Probably one of my favorites in recent years. I was sold really quick. I thought the scene with her getting in trouble at her elementary school for setting all the classroom animals free, that was just so awesome. Her grandma was her hero, since she seemed to be there for Mabel more so than her parents. I liked that little touch as well. There was heart, a lead character with a lot of motivation, and I also, noticed how basically instantly, I think, how much better the animation was. Just noticeably better this time around. So my guess is that Pixar's probably been paying attention to our complaints, which is nice. And the story segues into Mabel being in college. I think she's supposed to be 19 years old, where she pretty much struggles with her classes since her activism always takes priority, and especially since she's been trying to save this like creek/glade type area that her grandma had shown her from being demolished by the city in order to build a freeway. And she butts heads with local mayor Jerry, voiced by John Hamm, and I kind of thought that maybe the character of Jerry was inspired by Gavin Newsom. I still think that, but I could be wrong. I'm not trying to reach for any political, current events or anything like that, but it does happen with me sometimes. Either way, Jerry was a really solid villain. I enjoyed him. Don't get me wrong, a little bit of a political bend here, but not too much. If that's something that worries you, it's not heavy-handed here at all. And one day Mabel notices some strange animal behavior at the glade, and she ends up following a beaver back to her university, strangely enough. It just walks there. Another really funny scene. And it turns out that the science professors at her university have engineered these robotic animals that you can temporarily put a human's, I guess you would say, consciousness into, so that you can control the animal that looks real. And I guess you can do better research by kind of infiltrating and, finding out what's wrong, stuff like that. So Mabel sees this as a way to save them from the destruction of their home, but at the cost of betraying them if they learn that she's actually a human being. Essentially, I do feel like we have a fairly familiar story, and that's okay. It may not feel super fresh, but it also doesn't feel stale. And there's some solid writing too here, because going into the second act, I actually thought, at least for a couple of minutes, that things were going south, like into genericness or boringness at least. And it shifted gears and it grabbed my attention again. And I think my biggest complaint really is that some of the dialogue, I think, could have been a little better written. I just I didn't always feel the connection between the characters that I wanted, but there was enough heart there for it to kind of wrap up, and it did work. But yeah, some was a little bit off with the dialogue for me on a personal level. And to go with that, I would like to see Pixar return to putting more care into the side characters. This is a big problem for me. Not as much with this movie, but I mean, lately it just seems like too many side characters in a lot of these movies, while at the same time not doing anything to make them memorable. So it just becomes a chaotic mess. Like thinking back to Elio from last year. I mean, there were a bunch of like alien characters that Elio meets, and I really can't remember more than maybe two or three. But yeah, I would definitely say that Hoppers handles them much better, at least. I think one of my favorite characters was Diane the Shark, or as they call her, the apex predator. And before I go here, one of the best things that I took away from this movie is that it had a really cool message. Like, when Jerry wages war on the Glade, the bugs and animals fight back, with some of them actually wanting to kill Jerry for, all that humanity has done to animals and bugs and plants and trees and, plant life and stuff like that. So another character makes it, his goal to find a way to not only stop Jerry from just destroying the Glade, but to also stop the others from hurting Jerry. This is a good message for kids, and in a time where, at least here in the U.S., empathy is just becoming a thing of the past. So I'm giving Hoppers 3 out of 4 stars. Overall, I enjoyed it, less than Turning Red and Soul, but for me, at least it's a step back in the right direction for Pixar. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you at the multiplex.
Subscribe right now, please.